Well, let's get to it. Here's my top 5 coaches right now. And at the end of this segment, we'll give you our stock falling coaches, or at least I'll give you mine. You don't have to give yours, Mike. I'm not going to I'm not going to twist your arm. But at number 5, I've got Luke Fickell. Cincinnati is coming off a 29-27 win over the weekend over SMU. SMU's not very good. I wonder on my, what I like about Luke is that he's winning. Has made it to the college football playoff. What I don't love about Luke is, can he win at Nebraska? I don't know. I mean, he's got the Ohio recruiting connection, but he wasn't good as the head coach, at least as the interim head coach at Ohio State. And they didn't keep him. After the whole Jim Tressel fiasco, he took over. It didn't work out at Ohio State. Nebraska, their greatest comeback in the history of Nebraska football is against Luke Fickell. I mean, it's like the old story. If we beat him, I don't want him,
But if Braxton Miller doesn't get injured in that game, because the play that he got injured on as well
is Levante David
is one of the best plays Levante David made in his career. Which is saying something because the guy made so many spectacular plays. But, as he's going down, he just takes the football away from him. And that's the play that Braxton Miller got his ankle all twisted and he didn't return to the game. So, I mean, there is some caveats to it, to us coming balike from a 21-point deficit, but still.
Yeah, well, I've got him at number 5. Who's your number 5?
Bill O'Brien. I still think he's simmering. I think he's like buying just a touch for me right now. Alabama's offensive coordinator, I know they got beat, but they got beat when they put up 49 points. They're going to put up 49 points. I still think there's just enough of a light boil with him to keep him on the stock rising.
Yeah, I don't love Bill O'Brien.
I'm not a huge fan, but
because of what happened, not so much at Penn State. I think he did a great job at Penn State, considering what he was handed after the fiasco with Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky and all of that stuff. They were putting on was it a 7-year probation? It felt like 10 years or whatever it was. And he came in there and he won fairly quickly. He did a good job at Penn State, did not do a good job. I thought, they got to the playoffs the first few years. And then, it did not go well with Deshaun Watson. And maybe now you see why a little bit. And with that whole organization, it ended badly when they made him a GM. So I didn't like Bill O'Brien at the end of his tenure there in Houston. Number 4 on my list is Brett Bielema. He's 6-1, probably should be 7-0. Their only loss is to Indiana.
Of all schools, maybe the second worst team in the entire Big Ten. They do manage to hang around. That is Indiana, but that's a bad loss now that you look back at it. But they are ranked 18th in the country right now. And Nebraska has to face him this week. I like Brett Bielema. And if you're looking for toughness, something that Trev Alberts really wants in a head coach at the University of Nebraska, I think that's your guy. Let's face it. Wisconsin took everything good about Nebraska football, including Barry Alvarez, who coached at Nebraska, and moved it to Madison, Wisconsin. Then Brett Bielema made it even better in some ways. And now he did not do well at Arkansas. I guess if you want something that he did not do well, and his offense isn't fun to watch necessarily, unless you like smash mouth football, but it doesn't move big chunks of yardage at this, and at least they have it this year at Illinois. But it's Brett Bielema. He's got a reputation, and they're playing great football right now, at least really solid football at Illinois. That's my number 4. My number 4, because everything you read on the internet is true, is Lane Kiffin, because his plane was in Lincoln for 3 days this week, according to Twitter. Maybe even 4 days.
Was it Houston Nutt as well? Was
Houston Nutt may have flown the plane.
He might have flown the plane.
But just because, and I'll be honest with you, I thought about that. I'm like, Lane Kiffin at Nebraska 10 years ago, and how comical that would have been because of the train wreck at Tennessee and just the way his career had gone. But today, he's a pretty damn good coach. He's kind of figured it out.
And here's a way to make that story believable. His dad was Monty Kiffin.
Yeah.
His dad was defensive coordinator at the University of Nebraska. He lived in Lincoln as a kid.
Yeah.
Lane, I think he was still a young boy at that time, I want to say, before Monty Kiffin, of course, took the Tampa 2 and made it a big thing, and one of the best defensive coordinators at all time in the NFL. If you want to make it believable,
there you go.
There you go. Lane Kiffin. I like that one. Number 3 for me is Mike Gundy.
I know he's a man. He's 40, 55.
He's like 55 now.
Whatever he is. But all his teams do is win, and they're coming off a big win. I wouldn't even call it an upset over Texas this weekend. Mike Gundy just wins at a high rate, and you might be able to get him because the Big 12 is in flux. Texas is leaving. Oklahoma's leaving. Oklahoma State has to stay put. And does Mike Gundy want to live out the rest of his career being a little uncertain about where he's going with his football coach? I mean, he's still great. And, you know, they're a team that will always – they're not going to make the college football playoff because they always find a way not to make the college football playoff. But they're always going to win 10, 11 games, and Mike Gundy does it. They don't play defense. That would be my big concern with Mike Gundy.
True, but if you hire Vance Joseph as your DC and you keep Mickey on staff, then there you go. No, right. I like Gundy. That's an interesting one. I know his name has been thrown about here and there on occasion. My number 3 on a stock rising standpoint is still Matt Rule. I know he's kind of insinuated he has no interest in any open positions in college football right now. But again, it's just one of those, it's kind of that nice simmer, slow boil type thing with him for me. I think his stock is still just a little bit on the rise.
At number 2 on my list, Mickey Joseph. I think he has done a great job. I kind of throw out the Oklahoma game, the 49-14 loss to Oklahoma. That was a week where he had to take over the reins. He had to switch practice schedules. He had to kind of learn on the fly what to do. And since then, I think he's done a really good job handling the culture of Nebraska. I still think he's going to be on staff. I don't think he's going to be the head coach. But if he gets to 6-6, he may be the head coach at the University of Nebraska. You got to win this week against Illinois. If he wins this week against Illinois, I think he's goes to number 1 on my list. But right now, he's number 2. I guess the drawback with Mickey is he's never been a head coach. And you always worry about a guy being head coach until they're head coach, you know? And I know at some point you got to be the head coach, but do you want him to start at your program and learn on the fly at your program? But right now he's learning on the fly and he's doing a really good job.
I agree.
I got it number 2.
At number 2, I've got his brother, Vance Joseph.
Well,
he's got head coaching experience. You know, Mickey's staying on staff. Vance has got the defensive mindset. He can, still keep Bill Bush. I think Bill Bush, Brian Applewhite stay on staff. And I've got Vance Joseph as my number 2 with the stock rising.
What happens, though, if you hire Vance Joseph and you say, you're not the head coach, you're the defensive coordinator? And he might take the gig anyway because it's my brother.
Possible.
It's my brother. I love my brother. I'm going to do anything for my brother, and Nebraska can still probably pay him what he's making in the NFL. I mean, it's not like if it doesn't work out at Nebraska, he can't get another gig. He's Vance Joseph. He's already been a head coach in the NFL. That would be another nice feather in his cap. At number 1 for me, it's Dave Aranda. They're coming off so the stock is up for Dave Aranda. They're coming off the 35-23 win, I want to say, over Kansas this weekend. Defensive-minded coach. You always, what you don't have. They don't have defense. You go after defense. Bo Pelini, you brought in Bo Pelini because your defense was terrible. Nebraska's defense may not be terrible, but it's borderline really not good.
It can't stop the run.
It can't get off the field at this point. So Dave Aranda, and another good thing about Dave Aranda is he probably would keep Bill Bush and Mickey Joseph because he worked with them at LSU.
Yeah.
So that's my number 1 is Dave Aranda.
My number 1 is Brett Bielema.
Yeah.
He just wins. He's going to come in and put a boring offense on the field that's going to control the ball for 35 to 40 minutes a game, and Nebraska would just win.
I would like that.
It's not exciting, but I think winning is exciting.
I like winning. I would like to see it again. Heck, I'd like to just see really competitive and 500 at this point. My stock falling this week. I've got Chris Kleinman on there. They're coming off the loss to TCU, but TCU is really good. I got Lance Leipold stock falling right now. Kansas has lost 3 straight after starting 5-0. Lane Kiffin, I don't think he's going to come here. And they just had the loss to LSU. I don't think that really hurts him. They're still in the hunt, theoretically, for the college football playoff.
Yeah, for me, stock falling, Dave Aranda is number 1 on my list. He was number 1 on the guy that I thought we should go get 4 weeks ago. And now nope, stock falling. I don't think he's a good fit. I don't know that I would be overly excited if he was hired. Lance Leipold, Matt Campbell, both stock falling for me as well.